Welcome. This week, we talked to 4SA's head of legal, Liesl Pretorius, who recently attended a multi-day conference that explored new ways of cross-faith and cross-sectoral collaboration to address critical governance and societal issues. I had the opportunity to attend parts of the conference with Liesl. The Institute of Global Engagement, commonly referred to as the IGE, and the South African Community of Faith-Based Fraternals, SACOFF, they co-convened the conference, which took place in Pretoria from the 12th to 14th of November in 2024, and it drew together diverse government and faith leaders. It was an excellent conference, and we're just going to talk through some of the key takeaways. Who are these organizations? What do they stand for? And what were the key things that Liesl and I walked away with from that conference? And to start us off, Liesl, can you tell us who is the Institute of Global Engagement and SACOFF as well? Can you tell us about these organizations?
Yeah, so I just must say, I commend both of these organizations for this excellent conference. And we really hope that there will be much fruit of this conference going forward. So who is the IGE, or the Institute of Global Engagement? They're an organization, and they catalyze freedom of faith worldwide so that everyone has the ability to live what they believe. So they're very involved in many different countries to protect freedom of religion, and they work closely with government and the religious sector to facilitate those relationships and to build critical relationships with a view to protecting faith and freedom. And then we also have SACOFF, as you mentioned, the South African Community of Faith-Based Fraternals and Federations. They're a faith-based organization, and we really, in a very practical way, show their love for communities in South Africa. They have various community-based initiatives and projects, and they empower the vulnerable, individuals and groups and community to become capable and more self-reliant and participants in their own development. So two organizations that really do incredible work in SACOFF in South Africa, and then the IGE also on a global scale.
Yes, and I agree with you that the conference that they put together was so commendable. They had an amazing lineup of people. There's some people that you may be familiar with as a listener. We had faith-based leaders from different religions. We had Christian, Muslim, Jewish faith, the Baha'i faith, and it was such an exciting room. At the time, there was also quite a few government and political leaders. I always like being in the room with politicians. There were ministers, there were parliamentarians that were there. The ANC, Action SA, IFP, BOSA, ACDP were in the room with us. The minister and the DM of COGTA came, which was really great. And the Major General, which is the national head of social crime, was there. And the chairman of the ICE, who guards our democracy, was there. So it was a really exciting room of people that have the ability to influence our society. And then there was also some civil society leaders and devoted citizens and people who hold strong faith beliefs and who want to see South Africa be a safe space for people to express their freedom of religion and faith. And then there were members of the IGE who had traveled. We had people from America, people from all over the world attending this conference. So it was really a good room, and I do commend them, the organizers, that they put together this incredible room. I think people would like to know. So they have all these people in the room, Liesl. What was the purpose of this conference? What was the hope that they were trying to get out of it?
Well, the purpose of this conference, Nobu, was to, I think, really to catalyze an impactful collaboration between government and the faith communities, because faith communities play such a critical role in South Africa and across the globe. And I think the faith community needs to understand this power and influence and role to provide moral guidance, to speak truth to power, for example, that it has. So this conference with the purpose was to explore this, how to build these relationships, how to deepen these relationships, how to work together to address critical governance issues, societal issues. Because really, in order to make a positive difference and to work towards uplifting the common good, we need to find ways to work together, ways to, from people from different backgrounds, people with different roles and responsibility in society to come together. And in the invitation to the conference, the organizers mentioned the aspirations of Nelson Mandela, old president, the late Nelson Mandela, who set his aspirations forth in his presidential inauguration speech, that building peace, prosperity, non-sexism, non-racialism, and democracy, that is important. As he said, we enter into a covenant that we shall build a society in which all South Africans, both black and white, will be able to walk tall without any fear in their hearts, assured of their inalienable right to human dignity, a rainbow nation at peace with itself and the world. So that is a laudable and high aspiration that we all can aspire to. So that was the purpose of this conference, to get these government officials and faith leaders together to explore new paradigms of cross-faith and cross-sectoral collaboration, and to see, how we can build and strengthen networks to address these things. So I think critically important conference, a lot of seeds planted, and we trust that those seeds will grow and they will reap a harvest in due time. Nobu, so what was you've spoken a little bit, but could you perhaps in more detail just share with us your impressions of the conference, any key insights and takeaways?
This is the first time I got to attend such a conference, and I have to say I was deeply moved by a lot of the speakers, but I'm going to just focus on three key takeaways, three things that stuck out to me from the conference. The first one was the importance of self and myself as somebody who works in the sector, who's passionate about the sector, to maintain my own faith and to stay on top of my own beliefs and my own convictions. And I think sometimes if you work in this type of area, I'm sure if you do it for longer, disillusionment, the cause can become bigger than the reason why you were doing it. And it was a refreshing moment to pause and say, what is it that I believe? What are the disciplines in my life before I go and try and, make the world a better place? How am I self-disciplined within myself? And so that I can give a good version of myself to the world and to society and to the space that we find ourselves working in. So that was really powerful for me. I also really enjoyed, there was a Jewish rabbi who went through the psalm in the original Hebrew. It is always just an amazing experience to be able to listen to what the words were and to remember that the responsibility of the king is not just he wasn't crying for himself, was crying for his people. And a reminder that our leaders, as leaders in society, in whatever area that you're leading in, your responsibility is to take the petitions of the people. We're supposed to care about everybody else around us. And it can feel a bit disillusional when our leaders are just thinking about themselves, but that actually the mark of a true leader is to make petition on behalf of their citizens and the people that you represent, to make sure that they are able to access a good space for them to thrive in. And the third one was that I think sometimes we can forget that there are actually a lot of people in the country. For lack of a better phrase, there's more of us than there is of them, them. Because actually there's a lot of people that care about freedom of religion, that care about good old common sense, that care about raising our children well. And there's so much in common that if we're able to find the threads of commonality and collaborate, I think working in silos is what sometimes makes the minority seem to have, that they have a louder voice. And the type of organization that the IGE and the SACOFF, this conference is a good reminder that there is power in collaboration. And for SA, we have done that well. I mean, Michael's done that so well, and we work with a lot of different faith communities. But it was just another reminder that there's more people with I like to call it good old common sense, Liesl. People who actually care about protecting faith, freedom, and religion for all people. And there's just one more thing. I'm sorry I said there was three, but I remembered that there was just a call to citizenship. We got copies of this amazing book that is being and I have it right here on my desk, because I was so impacted by this book. It's called Devoted Citizen by S.C. Metebula, and just reading through that book and how he's going into the communities using his faith to teach clean communities, self-esteem, and identity to the youth, so that they can be better citizens, was a really powerful experience for me. But I could go on, but I know you have so much more to share as well, because you were able to be there for the entire conference.
Thank you, Nobu. Yes, I was there for most of the conference. Unfortunately, I missed the last day where they did a bit of a sightseeing tour, a study tour. But I think I was there for all the speeches and the presentations, which were fantastic. I was writing furiously and taking so much notes that I could also go on for ages. And I really want to rewatch many of these presentations and actually encourage others to do so as well, because it's just such incredible insight, such incredible wisdom from people who have, who walk those paths. And I want to touch on something that you've said as well, that the king prays for everyone, and it's this idea of servant-hearted leadership, and that it's not about you. It's when you're in a position, that it's a quote from, I think, Spider-Man: with great power comes great responsibility. But it's so true. If you are made strong, you are made strong to serve. And I think that's really a call. And often people sit and people see politicians, and some people are very they distrust politicians. But I think when some of the politicians who were there, when they spoke, especially they spoke from the positions of their faith, you could see them light up. And I think it's really something, it's encouraging. And I would also encourage our politicians and people in positions of leadership, we understand we're in the constitutional democracy and there's a framework in which we relate and we have to work, but let your faith inform that and shine through, because the good principles of that most faith have in common is this idea of serving others and caring for others and being a responsible person. So my key takeaway is also the importance of collaboration and good relationships and building trust as a basis for relationships. And we need this relationship of trust between the religious sector and the government, while respecting that we have different roles, we have different responsibilities, good boundaries, but having that working together, and trust really is the basis of that. And active listening when you're in a situation, often we deal with situations where there are various rights that seem to be in tension, but to sit and to listen, first seek to understand before you seeking to be understood, and to see what the issue is that the person is facing and connecting with that person. I'm saying on a human level, and to say, okay, but what are our common things, our common values that we can agree upon, and how can we then, because if you're coming, especially from the faith perspective, there might be things that you will never agree upon, especially when it comes to the doctrines. But there are commonalities. They say that, we can agree on this and we can move forward. That's why 4SA, as a faith-neutral organization, we're part of a coalition that's concerned about parental rights and education. Various faiths represented in that coalition. And we can work together wonderfully. It's such a beautiful way of working together. Conference really emphasized ethical leadership. I think this connects to the family values and the parental rights, the restoration of the family and the protection of the family unit. Because as one pastor said, governance starts in the home. And many of the religious leaders and also the politicians and government officials, they're concerned about the breakdown in society. They see the breakdown in society and to think, how can we restore that? And the church, it was emphasized, or the faith communities, has this important role of communicating those values and really working on the ground level to support people and support families. And we really commend the excellent work that many faith-based organizations and faith communities do in South Africa. So that was I also could go on, but that's just shortly my key takeaways. Was a wonderful conference. Apparently it will be made available that you could watch the video. So I do encourage you to perhaps go to the IGE's website, or whether they have a YouTube channel, to just have a look at that. But yes, now the conference is over. And when you had the privilege and opportunity of attending a conference like this, you don't want to walk away and say, oh, well, that was a brilliant conference, and then nothing happens. Action needs to follow. We need action plans. Things need to be implemented. We want to see fruit. We want to see the results. So, Nobu, what is the way forward? How can delegates, and very importantly, how can 4SA, what can we do with what we learned going forward?
Yes, and you've already touched on it. I would say, firstly, go back and re-listen, because sometimes in that moment of the conference, it's back to back. So take your time to re-listen and re-engage with the material when it's available. And if it's your first time, please go ahead and find that material and listen. It is worth your time. And the big two things, I think, is be intentional about relationships, be intentional about forming community communities and safe spaces for us to work, and finding that common ground that we spoke about. And then think about how you can serve others. Don't just wait to be served. And I think in modern day society, you touched on it also, Liesl, just listen. Listen to understand where people are. We're all humans trying to survive this world and make it out however we think we know how to. And so much of what a lot of people are lacking is just that feeling of being heard and being seen and being understood. And so if we just dedicate maybe less time to getting our point across and more time to understanding where people are and meeting them there, we may go further in our intentions. But where can people who listen to us, where can they get more information about 4SA and all this amazing collaborative work that we do?
Well, if you're interested to learn more, viewers are welcome to visit our website. The address is www.4sa.org.za. We have resources there. We have articles there, press releases. So, many things that you can have a look at. You can subscribe to our newsletter via our website, so you'll get important updates and alerts. And then, of course, we're also on social media. We are on Facebook, Freedom of Religion SA. We are on YouTube. So if you're watching this video, you've probably found our YouTube channel. Yes, and that's where people can find us. And we do encourage you, or we do ask, 4SA is 100% dependable on donations. And we thank each and everyone who supports us in standing in doing this important work to support faith and freedom in South Africa.
This is Michael Swain of 4SA. Remember to like and share this video and then click on the subscribe button to make sure that you never miss our video updates on vital religious freedom issues.